Hi, this is Tony Ruggiero, the Dew Sweeper. You're listening to the Tour Coach Podcast, giving you insights into golf instruction at the highest level, from on the PGA Tour to our learning center at Frederica Golf Club. So we're sitting in here, another edition of the Tour Coach Podcast. I thought it was time. Actually, it was a year ago at Pebble Beach, since I was at Pebble, which made me decide to do this. Since we sat down and had dinner, and we taped one of your visits here on the Tour Coach, I thought it was a good time to bring you back because I got lots of stuff to talk to you about, lots of questions. But Mr. Brady Riggs, Brady, you've had a lot going on. You're in some different places now, buddy. What's going on?
Hey, man, I remember that day, actually. We had a really nice dinner, and then we were hanging out and having a cocktail, and it was a wonderful evening, as always, with you. I'm out here in Hawaii now at a place called the Four Seasons Hualalai Resort, and it's paradise. So I'm doing a little back and forth to L.A., but very busy, but having a great time.
Well, if you follow on social media, I know most of the people do, and at Red Goat, way to follow him. I mean, it looks awesome, and I think one of the cool things about our business and getting to know people is, like, I know you've wanted to be there in Hawaii. That's a dream situation for you, a dream location. And I remember when you called me and you were talking about the opportunity. I mean, it's a cool thing to see somebody have the opportunity to go teach and kind of, really kind of build it from the ground up, from scratch a little bit into a premier, excellent learning center.
Yeah, I mean, this is, we did kind of have a clean slate, but we had a big advantage because we were in Hawaii, number one, and at an incredible place. But
that's a pretty good
it's not a bad place to hang your hat. But we also have this incredible teaching building, 3,000 square feet. We've got 3 bays. We've got TrackMan range, all the tech you could ever want. And, for me, I love teaching without the tech, but to have the tech right here when we want to use it is an amazing opportunity for sure.
How has the tech, because I know, we joke around and, obviously in a public or a driving range type situation in Los Angeles, and so obviously you're really good on the tech. You've been a resource for me that I've bounced stuff off of for years, but don't always use it, don't always have it at your disposal every day on the tee. Has it changed, helped, influenced your teaching the day-to-day, having it there all the time? Kind of how have you, what's the effect been on having all that stuff? Just curious.
It's a great question. I know I should probably say that I found a new respect for it. It's the greatest thing ever. But to be honest, I always respected it. I'm glad I know all about it. But to me, on the grass with a client, a player, regardless of their skill level, being able to see the club hit the ground, watch the ball fly in the air, you can't beat that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's interesting. I have it obviously at my disposal at Frederica. You've been there. It's interesting, but I still don't think it replaces what we do out on the grass, watching the ball, watching how a player does it without, because I think, to me, and I'd like your opinion on this as well, like when you have a player, and I'm going to use a swing catalyst, for example, because I have one, but and you get them on the swing catalyst, everything's squared up, it basically aims you, right?
Yeah.
Everything's squared up, framed up nice, and you're hitting out at this target out of bay. To me, that's totally different than on a tee where there's nothing down, no references, and you got to hit it at a target.
And that's, Tony, why I love your wisdom, because that is so true. You can get somebody in a bay and you've got everything taken care of for them.
It always looks good.
It looks pretty decent. And then you get on the golf course, and I can't tell you, because I love taking people out on the course, and we have a huge advantage here because we can take people out anytime we want. And people cannot set up. It blows my mind how bad people are at aligning themselves halfway decently, having a clue about ball position. They don't adjust for the slopes at all if the ball's below their feet. It's just something I think that, yes, you can do some great work in the bay and you can isolate some things, but it isn't reality. Reality is on the golf course with a target, with a problem, wind or whatever it is, and being able to watch people actually play golf, I still think is the best way to help people get better.
No question about it. And I think that runs true from mid-upper amateur level golfer, club level golfer, to junior golfers, and kudos to you. You've got some of the good young players from around that area coming out and working with you and being able to practice. That's really growing the game. And then obviously you've got the tour players and that stuff, and that's fun, and we do some of that together. But like again, it's cool to see what you're building there, and it's been fun to watch. I know I'm looking forward to what looks like it's going to be an October visit for me over there in the fall.
Can't wait.
It's going to be fun.
Can't wait. And Tony, on that point, I think what you said is so true. Even we've experienced this with tour players, right? Practice round is great, right? Driving range session is great. Get on a golf course, hit some horrible shots. And you're like, okay, well, that's different on the course than it was on the range or in the practice round. Why is that the case? In a tournament that happens. And, I think that's why there's no substitute for being on a golf course with somebody and watching them be able to play and compete.
What's your opinion for why, and I think this applies to any golfer of any level, why is it sometimes so different from, and we can use tour players here, why is it so different sometimes from the range to the golf course? Because it is, as a coach, sometimes we expect it, I think, but sometimes it's baffling.
Yeah, man, I wish I had all the answers to that. I think, I have a really good friend, Rick Sessenhaus, works with Colin Morikawa, a great mental game coach, and he was talking about your state, your state of mind and kind of where you are. If you're like on the range, you're practicing, you're relaxed, you don't have you're not worried about the results. And then you get on the course and all those things change. And you want to, I think, for me, what I've found is if I can train people and stress them out when they're practicing, I have a better chance of them being effective on the golf course because they're used to that stress and used to that pressure, rather than trying to relax them more on the course necessarily, I think is what we all try to get people to do. Right. Sometimes I got to stress them out more on the range so the golf course is a little more like it. I think both approaches pretty much apply, but that's one of the things that I've done that I think has been helpful. Keeping
that thought, one of the things I've learned a lot of stuff from you, and I borrow stuff that we've done or you've done all the time, but one of the things that I apply regularly is because I don't think it's any secret if you listen to this. I do a lot of retreats at Frederica, especially for people that want to get better, especially competitive players, but juniors in particular. And I've stolen your combine work, your Combine-arama. And I think the stuff you've put together from a short game perspective, wedge in, and what it is as far as a combine to train people, I think is as good as anything out there. And I'd love, if you don't mind, I'm not going to give away all your secrets, but expand on that and why it works, because I knew you do it religiously with your daughter, Maddie. I've watched her progression, and I think that's one of the coolest things I've seen in golf, but would love to talk a little bit about your Combine-arama.
Yeah, so I think the whole premise behind all of it is we try to stack up a practice session so that the start of it is technical or a baseline block kind of thing. So let's say we're doing putting, right? So we start maybe on the putting. I love the putting plate. So we use the putting plate and we do technical work for 5-10 minutes. Then we go into a short putting combine of 3, 6, and 9 feet, always under pressure and full routine. And then we kind of build into some longer putts and having to try and make some birdie putts, 15 to 30 feet. And then putting out those shorter ones. And I think if you train that and you're keeping score, you're monitoring, okay, if I miss the left to right putts low, I want to write that down. And so there's a lot of data points there that really can help, and you're tracking it over time. The person on the course then, they have a background of putting under the gun, in this combine, under stress. They've kept track of what their misses are, so they're aware of that. They've worked on the technical stuff that can help them improve that. They've worked on putting out. They're really prepared on the golf course to hit any length putt, any break putt. They're doing it under pressure in the combine. They can do it under pressure on the golf course. We work on routines a lot. We basically are trying to ramp up all those practice sessions so they're just like playing as much as possible with stress. And I think if you kind of apply that to all areas of the game, you've got a player ready to go as best as you can, instead of just taking 3 balls on the putting green and hitting them to the 20-footer, which you're never going to make anyway. So it's just an organized practice, which I love doing.
Well, and I think that's one of the things I've always known, that practice needs to be more organized. And even, to me, it's amazing how many really good players aren't very good at practicing. I mean, and I'm talking tour players. It's amazing how many of them, if you walk the tee, obviously they're better at it each level you go down than each level you go down. But it's amazing how many really good players aren't as good practicing as they could be.
Yeah, I think we see that across the board. And sometimes they're really good in some areas. They're not as good as they could be in other areas. I think, what I like to see from somebody is they have a nice mixture of technical practice, combines and drills, and then competitive things, and then on the golf course work, so that they're kind of touching checking all those boxes, as it were, rather than being, okay, I'm just going to be at the range, or I'm just going to play. I always want to mix it up so that, I feel like we're getting different environments, different stresses, still being a little technical, but not too much, and then getting on the golf course and trying to apply, which I think is everything. Yeah.
And again, I know from our talk, I mean, that's everything to you. And I think that's why, you look at the results you've had. I think that's why your players play better and play better when it counts, because if you do most of the work is geared towards stressing them and then helping them learn to apply it on the golf course. Well, I mean, when then it comes time and they're on their own, I always say it's like, golf's such a crazy game compared to, I remember we would talk all the time and when you were coaching soccer all the time for your daughter. And, you're at every practice and every game. Well, I mean, golf isn't that way for most of our high schoolers or college players or whatever. We're not at all the games and we're not at every practice. And so I think helping a player learn to structure and get more out of practice is really important as far as gets to transfer into the golf course.
I agree, Tony. I think you said it perfectly. I mean, I think every other sport we played growing up, we had a team environment and coach ran the practice. There was an organized practice session. You worked on whatever in the game didn't work in the last competition you had, and then you feel more prepared to go for the next game you have. In golf, we just sort of, guys take their 7-iron and driver to the range and they pick at the same target and they just hit ball after ball at it. And, that doesn't really get it done. They very rarely work on their short game enough. And then they're, hitting 20-foot putts on the putting green, and then they're grabbing their clubs and off they go. And that's just not the way to get ready to go have success. And then they get frustrated when they don't play well. I want my players to feel like they're prepared. And then when they don't play well, we can always go right back to, hey, we need to work on this in training. And then we're a little more prepared for the next time. Obviously, there's no guarantees. We're just trying to take some of those variables away to help them be ready to go.
Right. I agree with that. And so let's shift to talking about your daughter, Maddie. Tell us a little about what's going on with her and her game. I mean, like if you watch the swings on Instagram, the easiest thing for me to do when I'm flying, I peruse through and look at those swings. Man, she's gotten better. She's added some speed. I'm not like a huge numbers guy, and I don't know the numbers, but I can tell you she's hitting it harder. And I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that. And, man, she's gotten good. What have you done with her? How have you helped her continue to improve? I'm just kind of curious. I think it's fascinating teaching your own daughter and the job you've done and being a coach and being a father at the same time. I can only imagine I'm sure at times it's challenging.
It is, but it's a labor of love, and she's just really talented, more talented than her old man, that's for sure. I mean, you were around when she was sort of starting to be competitive.
Yep.
When I brought her out to Auburn for that camp, and that was a great camp for her and exposing her to great teachers, which you and I both love to share information. And with her, I think just try not to screw her up now is really my main job. She's a pretty athletic kid and has figured out her own little ways of doing things. I think my experience of screwing people up in the past has helped me not screw her up as much. In other words, like her swing was a little longer last year and she was hitting it really good last year, and it's gotten shorter now. And, she was like, is it too short? I'm like, well, you're hitting it further now than you did before. You're hitting it even more solid than you did before. I don't see a reason to make it longer just so it looks longer. Right. John Rahm's pretty good. He didn't take it very far back. So is Xander Schauffele. So I think just trying to figure out, let the player who's athletic run with the ball. If they are better, a little shorter than the average bear going back, then so be it. If they're longer, I don't care. I just want it to feel like she owns it, and it's not something I'm trying to make look a certain way. And the more she owns it, the better she's going to be under pressure, right? She doesn't have to try and make somebody else's swing. She's just got to make her swing. And she's improving a lot and working hard, and, we're on the journey. So we've got a great coach at Irvine, Julie Brooks, who's, just an amazing lady and a great coach. And that's really made a big difference for Maddie and given her an opportunity. And she's run with the chance. So I'm super proud of her and looking forward to the future with her.
She's enjoyed her time in Hawaii, too, I can tell.
Yeah, I got to say, both daughters, Abby, my youngest Abby, she's doing all my Instagram stuff. She takes both Instagram accounts. She's doing all the filming. So she's great. She's having a ball.
She's awesome at it.
She's really good at it, and she's a good little player. She likes to hit it past her sister. That makes her real happy. So, they're a lot of fun out here, and we're just so fortunate to be here during a pandemic. I can't even begin to tell you.
So you mentioned, and I've alluded to this, people hear me say it all the time, you mentioned not messing them up, not screwing them up. I'd like your thoughts on that. I think that for good players is way more important and way more valuable than people think. Because I think, and we're not going to talk about people because it's not late enough for me to talk about people. But that's a really good quality in a teacher, somebody that when they start thinks, I don't want to mess somebody up. Because there's a lot of instruction out there, in my opinion, and there's a lot of people that'll just take a player that's good and try to put their stamp on them so everybody knows this person taught them.
So true.
So that they can say on their videos and in an article or whatever, well, they were way out of whack, so I went ahead and did this. And I want your opinion on this because I always tell people you're one of my wisest friends. Like, you really do. You always have good insight. And like, I mean, I just think if they're already really good, Brady, like, they're probably not really far off the track. And they've probably done most of the shit we're going to ask them to do at some point anyways. So, like, not messing them up and being careful is a really valuable thing to me.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I try and be incredibly conservative with what I tell them. And on that point you made, which I think I have this little pet theory of the evolution of a teacher. So when we first start teaching, we are teaching kind of what we're working on, right? Mm-hmm. So we think we've discovered secret sauce, or we're trying to work on something, and so we teach everybody what we're working on. And then you kind of grow past that level, and then you find a pattern that really works, and you kind of are either using it yourself, or you taught a player, or a player came to you with that pattern, which we know happens. And then you're like, wow, that pattern's really good. I'm going to teach that pattern to everybody, right? Mm-hmm. So then you become a guy who teaches one way to everybody. And then I think you get to that last stage, and I think you're totally this stage. I'm not just saying that. I believe that to be true, and I know Butch's as well, where instead of teaching what you're working on, instead of teaching a pattern that worked for one player, you actually teach that person on how to do it best for them, and you do it mostly by working with them and talking with them. It's like a discovery, of the things that worked in the past. So I'm trying to get to that level. I'm trying to get to Tony and Butch's level. It's a lofty goal, but I really think that's the way to do it. Like, when we get to this point, we want to let the player be the player, and we want to make sure we don't try and impose our will on them, because generally speaking, they're already great. Let's let them be great.
I know that I've had periods of time I look at people that left me. I'm sure I would imagine the same way. Like, I look at people that left me that I was really emotionally attached to because, like, I taught them since they're kids, and then you look back and you try to figure out, like, why didn't it work, or why didn't you get the person to where you wanted them to? And I think as you come, and then you like, I don't think that answer just comes to you, and you think about it over time. And then I think it always comes back to, like, well, like, the answer was right there. Like, had to help them do what they were already good at doing, instead of always trying to find, like, there's this magical herb that we're going to uncover that's going to make them a tour player, make them a winner. And I guess the longer I'm around and out there, I just think that magical herb isn't there.
No, there is no secret, and I think the best coaches that I've ever seen are the ones that are really helping that player figure out why they're good, and then just writing that, not trying to change who they are, but just trying to exploit who they are when they're good. And I really think that Instagrams can be, and social media can be a little super misleading, right? Because people are putting up their players' best stuff, and they're not putting up the stuff when they're struggling. And, you don't see where the ball went on a video online.
Right.
So you don't know where the ball went. And so it's just all very aesthetic, and it's not necessarily practical. And, I think it can be dangerous, because a lot of people that are watching, I want to swing like that guy, and really that can, more often than not, it's going to mess them up. For sure.
I have a rule where, like, I don't ever really put on Instagram anything I'm working on with a player, especially a tour player, because I think that if there's a lot of positives, there's a lot of negatives, but, like, I think that tour players are they're in their own little world. And I think the biggest thing is they've got to believe what you're telling them. And I think the negative with Instagram is you can get some guy who's never taught anybody to hit a chip on the green. And they can comment, well, don't you think that his trail arm this or his trail arm that? And your player reads it and it's like, you've never said anything about my right arm, And I think that's why I never put anything up. And then if some jerk off wants to comment on something, well, don't you think that? I just delete it and block them. It's like, I don't really care. I mean, if you or there's a handful of teachers want to call me and say, hey, I was looking at that video of so-and-so, have you thought about this? We'd talk for hours. But from some guy on Instagram that doesn't teach anybody, I don't think we're probably going to let him comment.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of armchair coaching going on. And I think, Tony, this is one of the things I love about you is, there's a lot of respect for the guys that do this for a living. And I think, they don't necessarily want their stuff all over Instagram about what they're working on. And, we owe it to that as professionals. If that's how they are, we kind of respect that. We don't put it out there trying to pump our own name up. And I think it matters. I think that level of respect they've earned that for sure. Look at how good they are. And you and I feel the same way about that. I want them to be in their own space. What they're working on with me is their business and nobody else's. Yeah. If they want to put it up, I'm all for it. But I'm not going to put it up myself. That's for sure.
You and I could probably be slanted by some as anti-social media people. I mean, wouldn't be that hard to make that case. But I think a lot of it's cool. I love looking through it. And I think that there's a real value to the average golfer, a club-level golfer, to being able to go on there and have access to some content. I mean, I think a lot of it's good. There's stuff I read through that's good. But I still don't think that replaces, this kind of circles back to that question with you with technology and all the nice stuff you got there in Hawaii. Like, that still doesn't replace walking out on the tee with you and you watching the golf ball and watching them do it with nothing around.
No, and I think I would ask you this question because I think I know the answer to it. How much of a value in percentage is a FaceTime lesson or a video lesson that you're giving with a tour player worth versus being there in person?
I hate it first. I think that also it's a necessary, one of my things that I've tried to get better at, and I don't know that I'm doing great at it, but is to try to be a little more understanding of the times that we live, right? And that, like, to say that I'm not going to get better at doing online lessons and people that want access to you that way. Like, I think I need to do that. And I think I can be a little bit effective, but I would still tell whether I did a couple of them this morning. I had a mimosa going and I was doing online lessons and, that still doesn't replace, if you put it in a percentage, I'd like to ask the student that sometime, but I can't possibly think that would be a third of the way as good as being there in person. And I know there's people that tell you, and I watch some of these, these folks that are huge just online and that's all they do. One, I wonder, how do you not fall asleep every day? But two, and they say it's great. There's no way that can be as good learning as being in front of you. And I know that there's people that don't have access to great teachers and money, whatever. There's lots of reasons to do it. But I still don't think that makes it better than standing in front of you.
I couldn't agree more. And I think, there's a value to it. I mean, people that are able to send videos in and you can give them some feedback on what's going on. But boy, it requires a lot of conversation with that person in advance, right? Like, what's your miss? What's your good shot look like? How far is that going? Do you hit it off the toe or the heel? I mean, there's a huge conversation that has to happen beforehand that makes that virtual lesson a little bit better. And if your student's into a net sending you video and you can't see anything about what the ball did, you're only just looking at technique, right?
Yeah.
And we know that there's a lot of weird technique that works. So I think it's better than no lesson, and it helps if you have that conversation in advance about everything that's going on with the ball flight and the miss and everything. But, ultimately, there's still no substitute for being in person with somebody on grass, watch them hit balls, and then getting on the golf course. That's the best way to get better.
100%. And look, I've been doing a lot of stuff on Skillest. I had Baden Schaff. I don't know if you know Baden. You would enjoy talking with him. From Australia, and he owns Skillest and really tries to put together a great online community. And I've gotten more and more into it. And I enjoy it. And I enjoy it from the aspect that as me as a teacher, like it challenges me to try to figure it out online. But
right.
I still don't think that replaces if you could go stand with me instead of sending a video. And from a tour player, I think that I think that you'd have a hard time fixing a tour player all the time by just watching videos of them exchanged.
Well, and you and I are living that right now, and I think that's why, I value your friendship and also your professionalism because, I trust you and you've been a great resource for me as a teacher, guy I teach that's on tour, and then you've been eyes for me out there with him and, found some things that I wouldn't have found just because you're great at what you do. And I think, as a coach, putting your ego aside and looking out for your players' well-being and their best interest that's what I want to do. I want to be that guy rather than the guy that's worried that somebody's going to, do something better than I do. I could care less. I want my players to get better. So
right.
That's why, having that in-person thing makes a big difference.
And so folks listening, you've taught Brandon Hagee forever since he was a kid. And obviously all the way to the PGA Tour. I mean, kid, unbelievable talent, an unbelievable human being, which is more important than any of it, which I also think speaks volumes about what you do because I've never met any young person that you've taught at any point in time that's a jerk, right? And you can't say that about everybody. So that speaks volumes for what you're doing. But so we've started, it's the first time I've ever done this, kind of like I'm the substitute teacher, like I'm the pinch hit teacher coming out and helping with Brandon while he's on the road and you're in Hawaii and stuff. So go ahead and talk a little bit about Brandon and what you've done and what we're doing together and how it's different.
Yeah, so, I'm in Hawaii. I can't get out there as much as I'd like to right now, especially during the pandemic. And, it's great to have somebody in the business you trust that, they know what they're doing and even can add some stuff to what you're doing as a coach. And so Tony's been kind enough to jump in and help out Brandon while he's out there and I'm not there. And, I think it's been a really good combination. Brandon's played some great rounds of golf over the last 2 months. And I credit a lot of that to Tony. And I think, like we were saying, I mean, in this case, 2 brains are better than 1. 2 sets of eyes are better than 1. Sometimes you can get a little caught up in old stuff if you've been with somebody a long time, and it's nice to have somebody else there who can maybe see things from a different perspective or explain it in a way that maybe resonates differently. So it's been a great coaching opportunity for me and learning opportunity. And I think, I'm looking forward to you and I doing more of these in the future too, because I think it's a really good combination. I think it can be really effective.
Yeah. And I've always done bits of it the other way. Like I always think of myself as, the dumb redneck. So like but I always have shared videos and brought tons of people in to help my folks. Right. And, yeah, I mean, I can't. And if you charged me $1 for every video I've sent you to look at people over the years, my gosh, you could buy that resort down there. But it's been fun doing this together, and I've learned a ton from working with you and from working with Brandon, and it's been fun, but it's different, I mean, I just watch, I think that's one thing that's interesting about going on the PGA Tour, and you look at a bunch of the teachers are some of the personalities and the personas and the images and, a little bit. And, I mean, that, I don't know that that's my specialty, my image, but we've had a blast doing it. And I mean, it'd be interesting at some point we had to ask Brandon if he likes it, but he's played a little better and it's been fun, but I don't think in any form or fashion we've, changed anything y'all were doing.
No, I think you just explained it in a different way and you actually used, some tech with him. I think that he enjoyed. I think that was great. I think that we're a weird business, when you're dealing with a tour player and everybody's, kind of like a nervous, Nancy, right? I mean, we're sitting around like cats in a room full of rocking chairs waiting for somebody to take our job. And it's just the nature of the beast. It's going to happen anyway. So for me, it just is a little easier just to find somebody that I like, that I can trust, and then we can work together. And, like I said, maybe down the road, maybe we're trendsetters, Tony. Maybe the guy from Hollywood, California, and the dude from the South are really, we figured it out. Who knows? Well,
I think that, don't you think that goes like tomorrow, weather permitting, which is a big across the country right now. I'm going to L.A. and Robbie Shelton and I are going to go visit with Scott Lynn, Dr. Lynn, and just to give another point of view perspective on something we've been working on. And, I think that that's valuable. I mean, I don't know. And I think there are more teams out there now. I mean, I watch from Mark Blackburn. I know he's got a group of people around him. I know Chris Como does. And I think you see more of that. But yet still, I mean, I think the more even teachers could collaborate, instructors could collaborate on a player, I mean, I think it's healthy.
I do too. It takes sort of I've gotten old enough that I don't care, and I just want to do what's best for my player rather than worrying about me. So, and it's only been good for me, and good, and most importantly, it's been really good for Brandon. So I couldn't think of anybody better to hang out with anyway, the two of us. Trying to figure out a swing. I mean, one of us will have the right idea, right?
Maybe. Mine will hook, yours will fade.
Exactly. That's why it all works together. We're straight together. That's what it's all about.
Straight together. Awesome stuff. Hey, first, man, I'm proud of you and happy for what you're doing down there in Hawaii. I think that, one, I love it when a person chases their dream and goes and does what the hell they want to do. And I think it's cool what you got going on down there in Hawaii and the move you're making over there. Man, kudos. It's awesome.
Thanks, Tony. I mean, we had a lot of conversations about it, and you were very positive about you got to go. And you were right, as usual. It's been a great situation for me. So I know you're doing the same on your end. And, when you come out here in October, I promise you a good time. 100% guaranteed.
Oh, trust me. Just wait till I hit that But now also, continued success to you and Maddie. I mean, and watching that, and anybody listening, follow them on social media. It's a cool deal. I think anytime I've got a daughter that's 26, and I've told you this on the phone, she's got her real estate license and selling that. Like, you're just proud of when your kid finds what they want to do and is having fun, and you can support it.
Heck yeah. No, very, very lucky for sure. No doubt.
And to you and Brandon. And I appreciate the little bit of the piece I've been able to hang out and watch. It's been great for me. And, man, I can't wait till we tape like 15 of these when I'm down in Hawaii next October. All we're going to do is turn the recorder on everywhere we go.
It's going to be gold, Tony. It's for sure.
We may have 3 people listen to it, but it'll still be good shit.
No doubt about it, my man.
All right, buddy. You're the best. Hey, travel safe. I know you're heading back over stateside, and you got lots going on down there. I'll look forward to catching up with you soon, and I'll look forward to talking more with you down there.
Aloha, Tony.
Aloha means goodbye.
Indeed, and hello. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Tour Coach with Tony Ruggiero. If you enjoyed this, make sure to hit subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you are listening to this podcast. You can stay up to date because we have weekly episodes coming your way with fascinating people in the world of golf instruction at the highest level. Make sure to subscribe and stay tuned. If you want to learn more about Tony, head over to dosweepersgolf.com to get all the details on what he's up to. Maybe you want to see him, grab a lesson, or go to one of his camps, pick up his book, Lessons from the Legends. You can do that there. If you want to see Tony in action with some videos and other content, head over to golfsciencelab.com/Tony to get more info there. This episode was powered by the Golf Science Lab and was edited, mixed, and produced by Just Hit Publish Productions.
We go into year 2 of the Tour Coach. It wouldn't be possible without the support of all our sponsors. And I've had some great ones. And one of the things that I'm most proud of in my career and in my business is the fact that all of my relationships here and all these sponsorships have been long-time, long-withstanding relationships, haven't jumped from sponsor to sponsor and manufacturer to manufacturer. And I've always prided ourselves in special relationships and when people work together, support each other, and we've all put out great products for the benefits of everybody else. So I want to give a special thanks to these folks that have been with me for such a long time, and that would be the folks at Srixon, Cleveland Golf, and Zexio. Couldn't ask for a better manufacturer to be aligned with, and not only do they put out great product and great support, but they're first-class people, and they believe in what we're doing here on the Tour Coach and with the Dew Sweepers, and also Vineyard Vines. Ian, Shep, TJ, and all the folks at Vineyard Vines. Hard to keep me looking good, but they do a fantastic job, and they're like family. They support everything on the Dew Sweepers, and we're so proud to be affiliated with and support the folks at Vineyard Vines. So if you're out there, you're listening to the Tour Coach, please support our sponsors, Srixon, Cleveland Golf, Zexio, as well as Vineyard Vines, and keep listening and keep enjoying hanging out with us here on the Tour Coach.